I didn't see his face. That's the part that still keeps me awake some nights. I saw his truck. I saw his boots. I heard his voice through the rain and the static on the radio. But I never saw his face. And somehow that makes everything worse. Because if I had seen it, maybe I could explain what happened. The call came in at 2:13 a.m. Dispatch said there was a vehicle stalled near mile marker 117, out past the old quarry road. Single driver. No injuries reported. The man had called twice, then the line went dead. No GPS ping after that. Just a rough location and a bad connection. I was the only roadside assistance truck on duty that night. Normally, I would have waited for state patrol to head out first. That stretch of highway is empty, dark, and notorious for bad cell service. But dispatch sounded uneasy, and the call log showed the guy had tried again and again before losing signal. So I grabbed my jacket, took my thermos, and headed out. The rain had started about an hour earlier. Not a storm, just that steady, soaking kind that turns the world into a gray blur and makes every reflection look like movement. The kind of rain that messes with your depth perception and your nerves. Mile marker 117 is about 25 minutes from town if you don't hit traffic. At that hour, there was none. Just my headlights, the hum of the engine, and the radio crackling with half-finished sentences from dispatch. They tried calling the driver again while I was on the way. No answer. About 10 minutes in, my radio popped with static and then a voice cut through. Truck. Still here. Lights keep. Then nothing. I told dispatch I was close. The highway out there runs between thick stands of trees and long stretches of nothing. No houses. No gas stations. Just old service roads and the occasional rusted sign that nobody's bothered to replace in decades. When I finally saw the mile marker, my headlights caught something reflective up ahead on the shoulder. Pickup truck. Older model. Dark color. Hazard lights blinking. Slow and steady. Like a heartbeat that didn't quite trust itself. I pulled in behind it and killed my engine. For a moment, I just sat there, listening to the rain hit the windshield and the ticking of my cooling engine. The world felt quiet. Too quiet for a highway even at 2 in the morning. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out. The driver's door of the pickup was open. That was the first thing that felt wrong. People usually stay inside their cars when they break down at night. Especially out here. Especially in the rain. I called out, "Roadside assistance. You called about a breakdown?" No answer. I walked closer, my boots splashing in shallow puddles on the asphalt. The inside of the truck was dark. No dome light. No movement. "Sir." I tried again. "You still here?" My flashlight beam swept across the cab. Empty. No driver. No passenger. No phone on the seat. No keys in the ignition. Just an old, muddy floor mat and a fast food cup in the cup holder. Still half full, slowly vibrating from the rain hitting the roof. I felt that first little twist of unease in my stomach. Maybe he'd stepped into the trees to use the bathroom. Maybe he'd gone to check something under the hood. It wasn't unheard of. Still, something about the open door bothered me. I walked around to the front and popped the hood. The engine was still warm. Not hours ago warm. Not even half an hour ago warm. More like, just shut off. Okay. I muttered to myself. So where did you go? I shined my flashlight toward the tree line. The woods started only about 15 feet from the shoulder. Thick, dark, and swallowing up the rain like it didn't want any witnesses. "Sir," I called again, louder this time. "Your truck's still running warm. You need help out here?" No response. I was about to walk back to my truck and call dispatch when my radio crackled. "Unit 12, you copy?" "Yeah," I said. "I'm at the location. The truck's here. Driver's not." There was a pause. Then dispatch said, "We just got another call from that number." I frowned. From the driver? From the same phone, yes. My stomach tightened. What did he say? Another pause. Longer this time. He said, "He's standing by my door." I looked at the open driver's door of the empty truck. Cold crawled up my spine. "Dispatch," I said slowly. "There's nobody here. The cab is empty." The radio hissed with static. Then, he called again. Just now. What did he say this time? He said, "I don't think you can see him." I turned in a slow circle, sweeping my flashlight across the road. The trees, the back of the truck, my own vehicle parked behind it. Nothing. Rain. Darkness. Empty highway. Dispatch, I said. Where is this call coming from? Same number. Same GPS area. But the signal keeps bouncing. It's like it's not staying in one place. I didn't like that. Not one bit. Ask him where he is, I said. Static. Then dispatch again. We tried. He's not answering. He just keeps saying short things. My radio crackled, and for a second, I thought I heard breathing through it. Not dispatch. Something else. Then it cut out. I stood there in the rain, next to an empty truck with an open door, feeling like I'd walked into the middle of a conversation I wasn't supposed to hear. That's when I noticed the footprints. They were in the mud by the shoulder, leading away from the driver's door. But they weren't going toward the trees. They were going around the truck. In a slow circle. The footprints didn't make sense. They weren't rushed. They weren't deep, either like someone running or slipping in the mud. They were careful, evenly spaced, like whoever made them had all the time in the world to walk slow circles around the truck. I followed them with my flashlight. They went around the front bumper, around the passenger side, around the tailgate, then back toward the driver's door. But there was only one set, no second pair, no sign of a struggle, no messy scuffling in the mud, just one set of footprints, calmly orbiting an empty vehicle. Dispatch, I said, keeping my voice steady. I've got footprints here, only one set, the driver's missing. The radio answered with a burst of static before her voice came through. State Patrol is about 15 minutes out. Good, I said, because something's not right. She hesitated. He called again. I swallowed. What did he say? He said, I can hear you walking. My grip tightened on the flashlight. I was standing still. Dispatch, I said slowly. Ask him where he is. Tell him I'm right by his truck. Static. Then, he hung up. The rain seemed louder after that. Or maybe I just noticed it more. Every drop hitting metal, every splash in a puddle, every little sound suddenly felt like it was right behind me. I turned in a full circle again, sweeping the light across the road, the trees, the dark shapes beyond the shoulder. Nothing moved. No footsteps, no shadows, no voices. Just me, the empty truck, and those neat looping prints in the mud. I walked back to my own vehicle and leaned inside, keeping the truck in my line of sight while I grabbed my phone. No signal. Not even one bar. Same as always out here. When I straightened up, I had that familiar, uncomfortable feeling of being watched. I told myself it was just nerves. I told myself that guy was probably playing some stupid prank. Or he was drunk and wandering around in the woods. Or his phone was glitching and dispatch was getting delayed messages. There were a dozen normal explanations. None of them explained the footprints. I walked back toward the pickup, slower this time, listening to every sound my boots made on wet asphalt. That's when my radio crackled again. Unit 12, dispatch said quietly. We just got another call. I didn't answer right away. Unit 12? She repeated. I'm here, I said. What did he say? He said, he's closer now. My chest tightened. Closer to what? I asked. There was a pause. Then, he didn't say. I looked down at the footprints again. They were fresh. The rain hadn't softened their edges much yet, which meant whoever made them hadn't been gone long. Dispatch, I said. Does the caller sound scared? Another pause. No, he sounds calm. That was worse. Way worse. I took a few steps toward the tree line, shining my flashlight between the trunks. The beam caught wet leaves, dark bark, and nothing else. Sir, I called out. If you can hear me, I'm here to help you. You called for assistance. My voice sounded small out there. The woods didn't answer. Behind me, My radio suddenly burst to life with a sound that made my stomach drop. Breathing. Slow. Steady. Too close to the microphone to be dispatch. Then a voice, low and quiet, slipped through the static. "You're standing by my truck." I spun around so fast my boot slid on the wet pavement. "Who is this?" I said into the radio. "Where are you?" No answer. "Dispatch." I tried. "Did you hear that?" Static. Then her voice came back, tight and nervous. "We didn't transmit anything. That wasn't us." My eyes locked on the open driver's door of the pickup. For just a second, I thought I saw something move inside the cab. Not a person. Not a shape I could describe. Just a shift in the darkness. I took a step back. Then another. The radio crackled again. "He doesn't know you can't see him." That was the exact phrase Dispatch had told me earlier. Except this time it wasn't coming from Dispatch. It was coming from right next to my ear. I froze. Every nerve in my body went tight at once, like my system had hit some kind of emergency switch before my brain could catch up. I didn't turn around. I didn't breathe. I just stood there in the rain, staring at the empty truck, while someone or something stood close enough behind me that I could hear the wet sound of breath. "You should go," the voice said softly. I ran. I don't remember turning. I don't remember deciding. My body just did it. I sprinted for my truck, nearly slipping on the wet pavement, fumbled the door open, and threw myself inside. I slammed the door, locked it, and hit the ignition so hard I thought I'd break the key. The engine roared to life. In my side mirror, I saw the pickup truck's hazard lights still blinking. Slow, steady, and for a split second, I saw something standing where I'd been. It didn't move. It didn't chase me. It just stood there, in the rain where my footprints ended. I didn't stop driving until I saw the lights of town. State Patrol called me an hour later. They found the truck. They found the footprints. They did not find the driver. They did not find anyone else. And they told me something I still don't know what to do with. The phone that kept calling Dispatch? They found it. It was sitting on the driver's seat. Dead. No battery. No recent call history. I didn't sleep when I got home. I sat at my kitchen table with a mug of coffee I never drank, watching the rain crawl down the window and replaying that voice in my head. The way it sounded wasn't angry. It wasn't excited. It wasn't even threatening. It was patient, like whatever had been standing behind me already knew how that night was going to end. State Patrol took my statement just after sunrise. 2 officers, one older, one younger. The older one mostly listened while the younger one asked the same questions in slightly different ways, like he was hoping my answers would change if he rearranged them enough. They asked if I'd been drinking. They asked if I was tired. They asked if I was sure the voice didn't come from my radio. They asked if I could describe what I saw in the mirror. I told them the truth. "I didn't see anything clearly," I said. "I just know there was something there." They wrote that down. But the way they looked at each other told me they'd already decided what that meant. Before they left, the older officer said something that stuck with me. "You wouldn't be the first person to get spooked out there," he said. "That stretch of road does things to people." I wanted to ask what he meant by that, but he was already walking away. 2 days later, Dispatch called me into the office. Not for discipline. Not for a report update. For a recording. They sat me down in the little break room, closed the door, and played me the audio from that night. At first, it was exactly what I remembered. My voice. Dispatch's voice. Static. The rain in the background. Then came the first call from the driver. His voice was calm. A little distorted. Hard to place an age, but not old. Not young. "I'm still here," he said. "The lights keep going out." Dispatch asked him to repeat his location. There was a pause. Then he said, "He's standing by my door." My stomach tightened, even though I already knew what was coming. Dispatch asked who was standing there. Another pause. "I don't think you can see him." The recording cut to my arrival on scene. My voice sounded strange to me, like it belonged to someone else. Tired. A little nervous. Trying to stay professional. Then came the part that made my skin crawl. There was a section of audio I'd never heard live. Right after I told dispatch the truck was empty, there was about 7 seconds of silence. Then a third voice came through the line. Not mine. Not dispatch. Low. Close to the microphone. He's walking around it now. I felt cold all over. Dispatch looked at me and said, "We didn't notice that part until the next day." "Why not?" I asked. "Because it wasn't routed through our system," she said. "It's not on our side of the recording. It's only on the archived file." That didn't make any sense. "Then how is it there?" I asked. She shook her head. "We don't know." They showed me the call logs. The driver's number had called dispatch 11 times in less than 20 minutes. 7 of those calls never rang on their end. But they were still recorded. All of them. In one of them, the man said something that made my hands start to shake. "He keeps practicing where to stand." Dispatch asked, "Who does?" The man said, "The one you sent." That call ended there. I stared at the screen, trying to wrap my head around what I was hearing. "You think he was talking about me?" I said. "We don't know who he was talking about," Dispatch replied. "But he said it before you even got there." They let me go home early that day. I tried to convince myself it was some kind of technical error. Some glitch in the recording system. Some weird overlap of signals. But that explanation fell apart a week later. I was fueling my truck at the station when one of the other drivers, a guy named Marcus, walked up to me. "You're the one who went out to 117, right?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "Why?" He hesitated. "Dispatch played us part of that call in a safety meeting." I nodded. And last night," he said, lowering his voice, "I got a call near mile marker 102. Different road. Same kind of dead zone." My chest tightened. "What happened?" He looked uncomfortable. "Caller said his car wouldn't start. Said someone was standing behind it. But when I got there was no car." "Nothing at all?" I asked. "Just tire tracks," he said. "Like something had been parked there recently." I waited. He swallowed. Dispatch said his phone kept calling even after the battery died. That night, I dreamed of hazard lights blinking in the rain. Slow, steady, like something waiting. Dispatch didn't want to call it a pattern. They used words like coincidence, equipment errors, stress, and bad reception. But the list on the whiteboard in the back office kept getting longer. Mile marker 102. Mile marker 117. Exit 43 on the old county road. The service turnoff by the river. Different drivers. Different nights. Same kind of calls. Broken down vehicles. Poor signal. A calm voice on the line. And one sentence that never quite matched the situation. "He's standing right here." Or sometimes, "He's walking around it." Or, "He's waiting by the door." The calls never lasted long. Sometimes the line dropped. Sometimes the caller just stopped answering. But the call logs always showed the same thing. Multiple outgoing calls from the same number. Even after the phone should have been dead. Even after the person who was supposed to be calling was nowhere to be found. One afternoon, the supervisor pulled me aside. "You didn't imagine it," she said quietly. "Whatever you ran into, other drivers are hearing it too." That didn't make me feel better. That made it worse. She showed me a printed report from 3 years earlier. Different supervisor. Different staff. Same road. A tow truck driver had gone out to a call about a stalled sedan near the quarry road. He'd found the car empty, engine still warm, phone on the seat. While he was there, dispatch received a call from that same phone. The caller said, "He's checking the trunk now." The driver on scene had been standing by the trunk when that call came in. He quit 2 weeks later. No explanation in the file. Just a short note. Driver resigned. Cited personal reasons. Why wasn't this flagged? I asked. The supervisor sighed. Because nobody likes files that don't make sense. They get buried. The calls kept coming. Not every night. Not on a schedule. Just often enough that people started dreading certain stretches of road. Some drivers refused to take calls near the old quarry. Some asked for state patrol to go first. A few quietly started looking for other jobs. And then there was the night it happened without a vehicle. Dispatch got a call just after midnight. The man said he was standing on the shoulder near a closed rest stop. Said his car wouldn't start. When the first patrol unit arrived, there was no car, no driver, just footprints in the dirt. They went from the road to the edge of the trees and stopped. The officer on scene radioed in that the woods were too thick to see more than a few feet in. While he was standing there, dispatch got another call. Same number. The man said, "He's listening now." After that, State Patrol started taking the calls more seriously. They checked cell towers. They checked records. They tried to trace the numbers. Most of them came back as prepaid phones. Some came back as numbers that didn't exist anymore. One came back as a phone that had been registered to a man who died in a car accident 8 years earlier. That one made everyone very quiet. I tried to stop thinking about it. Tried to focus on my routes. My regular calls. Daytime jobs. Safe places. But it's hard to forget something that keeps showing up in the corner of your workday. 2 weeks after Marcus told me about his call, dispatch asked me to come in again. "We found something else in the archives," they said. This time it was older. Much older. A scanned report from the late 1990s, back when everything was still written on paper and filed in metal cabinets. It described a series of calls from payphones along the same highway. Same pattern. Drivers reporting someone near their car. Responders arriving to find empty vehicles. Calls continuing even after the payphone line had been cut. One handwritten note in the margin said, "Caller does not seem to be describing a person. Describes position, like a shadow that knows where to stand." I couldn't stop thinking about that sentence. Not a person. Position. A place something was supposed to be. That night, I dreamed I was back on the highway. But this time, there were dozens of cars on the shoulder. All with their doors open. All with their hazard lights blinking. And in every driver's seat, there was a phone. Ringing. I tried to stay away from the problem. That sounds stupid looking back. Like you can just decide not to think about something that's already proven it can reach into your job, your radio, and your sleep. But people are good at pretending. Especially when pretending lets you keep going to work. For a while, it worked. Then dispatch started routing certain calls to other drivers by default. Not officially. Not on paper. Just quietly. And then, one Tuesday night, my name popped up on the board next to a location I recognized immediately. Old Quarry Road. Mile marker 119. 2 miles past where it had started. I stood there staring at it while the supervisor pretended not to notice. "Someone else can take it," I said. She didn't look up from her screen. "They're all tied up. You're closest." The call notes were short. "Vehicle won't start. Caller reports someone near the car. Poor signal." My hands felt cold on the steering wheel as I drove. I told myself it was just another nervous driver. Another coincidence. Another case of people reading too much into bad reception and old stories. The road looked the same as always. Dark, wet, empty. I saw the hazard lights before I saw the car. This time it was a sedan. Light-colored. Parked half on the shoulder, half on the grass. I didn't pull up right behind it. I stopped a little farther back and left my engine running. The radio was quiet. Too quiet. I sat there for a full minute, watching the rain slide down the windshield, waiting for something, anything to happen. Nothing did. Finally, I grabbed my flashlight and got out. The air felt heavier than it should have. Thick with the smell of wet dirt and cold metal. "Roadside assistance," I called. "You called for help?" The driver's door was closed. That was new. I walked closer, my light bouncing over the trunk, the rear window, the roof. No movement inside. I tried the door handle. It opened. The seat was empty. No phone. No keys. No sign anyone had been there at all. "Dispatch," I said into my radio. I'm on scene. The car's empty again. Static. Then her voice, thin and tight. We just got a call from him. My chest tightened. What did he say? He said, you stopped too far away. I felt my stomach drop. How does he know where I am? I asked. There was no answer to that. Ask him where he is, I said. Ask him to describe what he sees. A pause. Then, he said, he's by the rear tire. He keeps looking at the door. I looked at the rear tire. There was nothing there. But the rain had washed the mud just enough that I could see footprints in the grass. One set, leading from the driver's door, around the back of the car, and stopping, right by the rear tire, exactly where he said. My mouth went dry. Dispatch? I said quietly. Tell him to stay where he is. Another pause. He said, I am. I felt that same pressure in my chest I'd felt the first night. That sense that the space around me wasn't empty in the way it should be. Is State Patrol en route? I asked. Yes, she said. 10 minutes out. 10 minutes felt like a very long time. The radio crackled. A new voice came through. Not dispatch. Not the comm caller from before. Sounded like me. Same tone. Same cadence. Same tired edge. You shouldn't stand there, the voice said. I froze. Dispatch? I said. Did you hear that? Yes, she said. And I don't know how to explain it. The radio spoke again. You're in the wrong place, it said. He stands a little closer. I took a step back without meaning to. The footprints in the grass didn't change. But I had the sudden, overwhelming feeling that something else had. I backed away from the car, slow, careful, keeping my eyes on the empty driver's seat. My radio hissed softly. Then, very quietly, it said, he's learning. Headlights appeared in the distance. State Patrol. I don't remember getting back into my truck. I just remember driving away as fast as I could once they waved me on. They never found a driver. They never found a phone. They never found anyone hiding in the trees. But 2 days later, dispatch called me again. This time, it wasn't about a new incident. It was about a recording. One that had come in after I left the scene. The voice on it said, he doesn't like where you stand yet. They didn't want to call it an experiment. Nobody likes that word when real people are involved. So they called it a controlled response. A test. A way to see if there was anything consistent about the calls besides how much they messed with everyone's nerves. State Patrol was involved this time. So was a tech from the phone company. So was someone from dispatch who looked like she hadn't slept properly in weeks. The plan was simple. If another call came in from one of the dead zones, we wouldn't send just one vehicle. We'd send two. One responder would approach like normal. The other would stay back and watch. We'd keep the line open as long as possible. We'd record everything. Took 3 nights. Then the call came. Exit 43. The old service road by the river. Same story. Car won't start. Bad signal. Caller sounds calm. I wasn't supposed to be part of it. But I was on shift. And when the supervisor looked at the board, then at me, then away again, I knew I was already in. We rolled out in 2 vehicles. Me in front. A patrol car hanging back, far enough that the caller wouldn't see the lights right away. Dispatch kept the line open this time. The man on the phone said, "You're coming from the left again." Dispatch asked how he knew. He said, "That's where he usually stands first." The road dipped toward the river, and the fog was thick enough that my headlights felt like they were cutting tunnels through milk. I saw the car before I saw anything else. Small hatchback. Parked crooked near the guardrail. No hazard lights this time. I stopped where I was told to stop. Not too close. Not too far. My radio was quiet. "Roadside assistance," I said, stepping out. "You called about a breakdown?" Dispatch asked him where he was. He said, "You're next to the wrong door." I hadn't moved yet. I walked slowly toward the driver's side. The car was empty. The passenger door was closed. The back seat was empty. The trunk was closed. "Dispatch," I said. "There's no one here." The man on the phone laughed. Just once. Softly. "He's behind you," he said. I didn't turn around. The patrol car behind me turned its lights on. Blue and red washed over the fog. "Dispatch!" The officer's voice came over the radio. "We've got him in sight." My heart jumped. "You see someone?" "Yes," he said. "Standing about 10 feet behind you." Cold spread through my chest. "What does he look like?" I asked. There was a pause. "He looks like you." I felt my knees go weak. "Describe him," Dispatch said sharply. "He's got the same jacket," the officer said. "Same build, same posture. He's just standing there, not moving." The man on the phone spoke again. "He's standing wrong," he said. "He always stands wrong at first." I heard footsteps in the wet gravel. But they weren't behind me. They were in front of me. I looked at the empty car, then at the reflection in its dark window. For a second I saw myself, and then I saw someone else, standing where my reflection should have been. Same shape, wrong timing. The patrol car's engine revved. "Dispatch," the officer said. "He's gone." He was there and then he just wasn't. My radio crackled. The man on the phone said, "He doesn't like being watched." The call ended. They searched the area for an hour. They found no footprints, no phone, no second person. The only thing they found was something that made the tech go very quiet. A second call log. Time-stamped 3 minutes before the first call came in. From my number, saying nothing, just an open line. They put me on leave after that. Not officially, not with paperwork. Just a quiet conversation in the supervisor's office and a suggestion that I take a few days. State Patrol took my statement again. This time they recorded it. Again. They asked me if I'd made any calls that night before the incident. I said no. They asked me if I'd ever left my phone unattended in the truck. I said yes. Of course I had. Everyone did. They asked me if I was sure I'd never called dispatch without remembering it. I didn't like that question. The tech from the phone company showed me the logs. 2 calls from my number. One at 1:42 a.m., the one I remembered. One at 1:39 a.m., 3 minutes earlier. An open line. No audio. No background noise. Just a connection. "You could have but dialed," he said. "From my work phone?" I asked. "While it was in the holder?" He shrugged. "We see weird stuff." I started noticing little gaps after that. Nothing dramatic. Nothing I could point to and say, "That's impossible." Just moments that felt misplaced. I'd drive somewhere and not remember the last turn. I'd look at the clock and realize 10 minutes had passed without me being able to say what I'd done in them. I'd check my phone and see I'd opened apps I didn't remember touching. I told myself it was stress. I told myself it was lack of sleep. Then dispatch called me at home. Not my work phone. My personal one. The supervisor sounded hesitant. "We got a call tonight. Near the river road." My stomach tightened. "Why are you telling me?" "Because the caller asked for you by name." I didn't answer right away. "What did he say?" I asked. "He said he knows where I stand now." I hung up. That night I didn't sleep. I sat in my living room with all the lights on, listening to my house settle and wondering how many of those sounds were really just the house. At 2:11 a.m., my phone buzzed. No number. Just unknown caller. I didn't answer. It rang until it stopped. Then it rang again. When it stopped the second time, I checked my call log. There were 2 outgoing calls, both to dispatch. Time-stamped 2:11 a.m. My phone was still in my hand. I hadn't touched the screen. I drove to the office the next morning. They didn't want me there. I could tell by the looks on their faces. But I didn't care. "Play me the recording," I said. They did. It started with static. Then a voice came through. My voice. Calm. Even. Tired in the same way I always sounded after a long shift. "He's standing too close to the road," my voice said. "You should send someone else first." Dispatch asked who was calling. My voice said my name. Then it said, "He doesn't remember calling yet." I felt sick. They pulled up the security footage from the garage. From the time of the call, my truck was parked. My phone was in the holder, and on the driver's seat, there was something else. Not a person. Not really. Just a shape in the dark that moved like someone settling into a seat. Then, a minute later, it wasn't there anymore. That was the day I understood something I'd been avoiding since mile marker 117. It wasn't following the callers. It wasn't following the cars. It was learning the responders. Learning how we stood. How we spoke. How we waited. And once it learned enough, it didn't need the caller anymore. I didn't go back to work. Not after the footage. Not after hearing my own voice say things I didn't remember thinking. The supervisor didn't argue. She just nodded in that careful way people do when they're trying not to make something worse by naming it. I told myself I was done with it. I told myself it would find someone else. For a while, that seemed to be true. The calls kept coming, according to Marcus. According to dispatch. According to a patrol officer who stopped by my place once to check in. Same stretches of road. Same kind of reports. Different drivers. No one ever found the callers. No one ever found what was standing where it shouldn't. And then, about a month later, my phone rang. No number. Just, unknown caller. I let it ring. It stopped. A second later, it rang again. I watched it this time. My phone was on the table. The screen lit up. The vibration hummed against the wood. I didn't touch it. When it stopped, I checked the call log. 2 outgoing calls. Both to dispatch. Time-stamped for the exact minute my phone had been ringing. I drove. I don't remember deciding to. I just remember being in my truck, watching the road unspool in my headlights like it had a destination picked out for me. The old quarry road was empty. So was mile marker 117. No cars. No hazard lights. No rain this time. Just a clear, quiet night and a sky full of stars that didn't seem to care what happened on the ground. I pulled over anyway. I sat there with the engine running, listening to it idle, waiting for something to tell me I was wrong. My phone buzzed. A text message. You're standing too far back. I got out of the truck. The air was cold and still. No wind. No insects. No distant traffic. I walked toward the shoulder. My phone buzzed again. Closer. I stopped. Who is this? I said out loud. The phone didn't ring. Another message appeared. You don't remember how you stand yet. I felt that same pressure in my chest I'd felt every time before. That sense that the space around me was occupied, even if I couldn't see by what. I looked at my reflection in the dark window of my truck. For a second, it was just me. Then it wasn't. There was a second shape standing a little behind me, a little to the side, close enough that our outlines almost overlapped. But when I turned around, there was nothing there. My phone buzzed. That's better. I backed away. The screen lit up again. You're learning. My radio, my old work radio, the one I hadn't turned on in weeks, crackled to life on the passenger seat. Static. Then a familiar voice. Mine. Calm. Even. Tired. Dispatch. It said. He's on scene. But he's not standing right yet. I didn't answer. I didn't move. I just stood there on the side of the road, staring at my own truck, listening to my own voice describe where I was. The radio hissed. Then the voice said, he'll fix it. My phone buzzed one last time. You should go sit down now. I got back in the truck. I don't remember walking there. I don't remember opening the door. I just remember sitting in the driver's seat, hands on the wheel, looking at the empty road ahead. The radio clicked off. My phone went dark. The engine was still running. In the reflection of the windshield, I could see myself. And behind me, in the back seat, there was the faint outline of someone settling in. Not moving. Not speaking. Just getting comfortable. I don't know how long I sat there. Eventually, I drove home. The next morning, I woke up in my bed with my keys on the nightstand and no memory of the drive back. At 2:13 a.m. That night, dispatch got a call from my number. The caller said, "There's a man standing by my door." Dispatch asked who he was. The caller paused. Then he said my name, and added very calmly, "He doesn't know he's here yet."